Okay, now that we have our demo vehicle and our demo event covered, let's talk about a little bit more in depth of what you can do inside the vehicles. So we'll go through here, we'll delete our old example vehicle and example event because we don't need those anymore. So now if we kind of go back into this event, I want to show you a little bit more detailed of what you can do with your different settings. So the first thing you should know about is, as we talked about before briefly, is you can select whether you want a parameter that you create to be a single parameter for just, rear wing angle. That's just one parameter. Or if it's left, right, front, rear, or four corner. And that's going to be important because that's going to be defined throughout the future of all of this information. So when you're comparing to previous sessions, you can't change this in the future. So if you think you might want to do your alignment or your dampers on corner by corner basis, then you should select four corner. And then you also have the ability to change units. So even if you select Fahrenheit, the app stores everything in a native unit. So even if you want to change your units later, something that's in millimeters will still show up correctly in inches. You won't lose that information if you change the the unit as long as it's within this same subcategory. So I'll give you an example of that. So let's go into our demo event or shop setups. Click on the setup sheet here. So our ride height right now is 327 millimeters. So let's just set that to 300, which is about 12 inches. And you can see that the cells highlighted in red, indicating that these cells have been changed. So we'll save that setup sheet. And now we'll go into that vehicle and we'll change the ride height from millimeters to inches. So now we open that session back up, we can see the ride height is 11.8 inches. So we haven't lost that information. And you can see that it's stepped up to that round number when I clicked on it because we have the step value set to 1. So if I go back into suspension here and I change this step value, or sorry, it was 0.5. If I change the step value to 0.1, now when I go back, save this vehicle, now when I go back into this setup, I can make the steps are 0.1. And if you're on a mobile app, you can click this and drag it up and down with your thumb. So basically it's the same as if I click it and scroll up and down. So this is a way you can really quickly interact with the values on your phone. So I'll give you an example of that here. If I put this into a mobile display, I click this and I drag up and down, you can see it goes up and down by the step value that you have predefined in Vehicle Editor. This is why you want the step value to be a relevant number that you would actually adjust the vehicle by so that you're not wasting time going through a number of drags with your thumb if you're using the phone. So if you set this to what you'd realistically adjust the vehicle by, which in our case was 1 millimeter or half a millimeter before, we're now 0.1 inches, you're able to make really quick changes here. And in Vehicle Editor, you also have the ability to change and delete existing parameters, but there are some parameters that are fixed that cannot be changed, and that's because the app relies on these parameters for other aspects. So for example, ride height cannot be deleted. Tire temperature cannot be deleted. Circumference cannot be deleted because that's relied on for the tractive effort calculation. So if you don't see a minus sign, it's because the app requires those parameters to exist. You also have tire information, such as a tire ID and tire temperature. So we'll go through how the tire management works in a future video, but for now, I'll show you how this tire temperature input works because it's a little bit different. Inside of a setup sheet, in the tire section, you open up this tire temperature picker, and then you can then set your temperature. And you can see here that these color values are changing based on the temperature that I input. And you can define what you want those colors to be in the vehicle editor. So if we go back to the vehicle editor and we open up tire temperature, you can see here, these are the set points of these different colors. So anything below 40 degrees will show up as cold and so on and so forth. And this is just helpful for you when you're at the track. You can very quickly see when you enter in your tire temperatures if you're in the sweet spot of the tires or not. That's it for this video. We'll have more coming shortly.